Show me the money.
Just looking good, but I think I'm taking too long.
Back with a spot for a Glock. I took a loss over floss, but still got a knock.
Money! Jerry, does that make you feel good just to say that?
All right, for the first time since March, Showing the Money is back. We are talking a little NBA playoff, regular season action, all this sort of blending together with this crazy Orlando setup. I got two people here with me from SportsGrid today talking about it. First up, you've heard him quite a bit on the podcast during quarantine. The great Martino Puccio is back. Martino, how are you?
Not bad, Mike. Not bad. I put in a bet last night on the Celtics.
So hopefully that bet works out for you. Also with me today, so the guy who was here the last time we did Showing the Money, we went through the mock NCAA tournament. Kevin Walsh, also from SportsGrid. Kevin, welcome back. How are you?
What's going on? Wow, I'm keeping Show Me the Money in business. It's good to be back, man.
It is good to be back. I forget. Do you remember who we had winning the tournament when we did the fake tournament back in March?
The safe bet is that I gave it to Kentucky. Yeah. That's the safe bet. And I still got to get refunded on a futures bet that's in my wallet.
Yeah, I had to get refunded on potential bets as well. My bet here, I think I picked Kansas to win, but right now I'm keeping my eye on the baseball over-under because those numbers just came out, and they're very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And, the 59-game caveat, not a lot of breathing room. Those things could get voided, but we stay optimistic.
We'll stay optimistic. We're going to talk about the NBA today, though, so let's start off here. A little Gel NBA talk. So, obviously, this is a much different world now than where it was when we shut the sport down in March. Back then, can you guys tell a little bit what you were feeling about the NBA season?
I mean, I thought we had a good idea of 3 to 4 teams at the most that I thought were going to be able to win this title. It was really just for me the 2 LA teams, Milwaukee, and then I think Toronto was a dark horse. I think they had definitely the best value out of all the teams to win the title, especially on FanDuel. They're like 2,800, and that, correct me if I'm wrong, because that still hasn't moved at all, even though we've seen like movement with a lot of other stuff. I was big time off on the Rockets. I thought the Rockets heading in, going with the way they were playing, going very small. They got tired out all the time, James Harden and Russ. I just didn't see it working out for them, especially the path that they would have to take. But now I've completely almost done a 180 on them just because of the unprecedented break that went on. But yeah, I mean, look, it was we knew a lot going in. We were almost near the end of the season, so I mean, not much has changed for me. Just a few teams I think benefited from health and rest.
Yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off of that kind of, the 2 big games that we got right before things closed down was Lakers-Bucks, Lakers-Clippers. And all year long, I've viewed the Lakers as the team that I would expect to win the title. And, that stretch right there is going to do nothing other than kind of confirm it for somebody that had that opinion. The other game I'll offer you was March 2nd, again, which sounds like centuries ago, but in terms of right before we had closed up shop, it was only a couple of games played after that date. When the Heat played the Bucks for only the second time all year long and beat them for the second time on the season, it was one of those things where you could see how the Heat might be a matchup that Milwaukee might dread if they do get seeded against one another in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's definitely fun to watch. I definitely am intrigued with a lot of these storylines. The one thing that sort of piqued my interest is obviously the hub mile. Everybody's heading down to Orlando the next couple of days, next couple of weeks or so to get ready for the season. Obviously, everybody's going to play out the year there. Do you think that the champ coming out of this hub, assuming we get there and the virus doesn't destroy everything, assuming we play out to the NBA champion, do you think they're legitimate because of the break, or is this something more or something less? What do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, so to me, I think it's legitimate, but we have to see, right? So if we get a situation where, you've got the Pacers against the Mavs in the finals, okay, something probably went wrong, and it's probably an asterisk. And no disrespect to those fan bases, but I think they would both have to acknowledge that they're far from the favorites to win the title. But if we end up getting the matches that we're supposed to get without the key players missing, I don't view this as an asterisk. I think there really are. I think it's less than 10 players. It might only be maybe 5 guys. It's a very small group of guys that if they missed time during this window would require there to be an asterisk put on this season.
Yeah, I could definitely see something like that. And I do think I'm intrigued also by the idea of seeing, like, what kind of teams do you think benefit the most on this layoff? Like, who do you think comes back the best? Like, I'll start with you again, Martino. Like, which sort of teams do you think are best suited to deal with the layoff?
Okay, yeah. So I think there's actually a few teams, to be honest with you. And there's definitely a case for a lot of them. I think I'll just start with the Lakers. Just because, look, LeBron James at his age, Anthony Davis, we know he gets banged up from time to time. Listen, anytime LeBron gets rest, we saw what happened when he had a 2-week rest once, and then he just went completely off. I know some people were off of last year with that, but that was an injury that was totally different and kind of like that rest he had with his first season back in Cleveland. I think the Raptors really benefit well because their main 7-man rotation, their best 7 guys that they roll with, didn't play more than 18 games together during the regular season. So we didn't even get an opportunity to really see that core work out. And then the Clippers and the Celtics to an extent. Like, let's be real here. Paul George did not look anything close to the Paul George that we saw last year. I don't think we'll ever see that one again because Kevin also like an aberration of what happened. But I do think he can get somewhat close to that ceiling. And then the Celtics are kind of in that, here with the Raptors. They weren't fully healthy all season. They have guys that are battle tested in the playoffs and they can make some noise. But other than that, I think it's really those teams. I mean, Milwaukee was what it was. Maybe you could argue Giannis getting that rest that he needed because he was, injured towards the end and all that stuff. So, I mean, it could benefit them, but I would stick with those few teams. And the Rockets. The Rockets. Well, right. I was going to make that point, Martino, because it's something that, you alluded to. It's something you and I talk about on Betting Around the Rim. James Harden, every year, we get to the postseason, we go, the workload destroyed him, and he's not going to be able to finish. That excuse doesn't exist, and it's nothing other than encouraging to see how much weight he has lost during this quarantine, because it just means that he's been keeping himself focused, locked in, and the variance that team already brings to the table with their three-point shooting, it's only a couple of games. If they get hot, they've got a pretty good shot. I will say this, though, about the Rockets. They are close enough to potentially land the 3 seed. They certainly are. They also open with the Dallas Mavericks, and if they lose that game, they're a half game back of the 7 seed, and they might have to open with the Clippers if this thing slips for them. The Rockets are certainly a team to keep an eye on, but I think the rest that this now provides for not only Harden, Westbrook wasn't playing back-to-back. He was on the same exact schedule as Kawhi Leonard. I think the rest for their 2 stars is certainly a big thing for them.
Yeah, one thing that caught my eye just because of the health situation, I think, is Portland coming back, because I think you're getting back both Zach Collins and Nurkic potentially from injuries, and that could be huge for that team. They were making a charge down the stretch. I don't know how the schedule works after them, but I'd watch Portland as well.
I'll tell you this, Mike. I'm personally getting ready, though, to fade Portland because I was excited as well about Collins and Nurkic, but then Trevor Ariza pulls out. And I think that mattered way more than you would think on the surface. He came there, played 21 games for them. He started in all 21 games for them. They're pretty shallow when it comes to wing depth. He shot 40% in those 21 games from 3. I like Collins. I like Nurkic. But they're also now coming back to a team with Hassan Whiteside. They've not really ever played with him before. Nurkic certainly hasn't. And those guys, I mean, you want to talk about rust. Those guys haven't played in a real game. Nurkic over a year. Zach Collins, by that point, it'll be close to 8 months, like a full 8 months. I'm worried about Portland a bit.
Well, that's actually hilarious that you just mentioned them because they just signed Jalen Adams to replace Trevor Ariza, like literally this second. So, I mean, MVP runner-up. Look, I mean, that adds to it. I still think Carmelo's a question mark. It's not a guarantee that he's going there. And it's a good point with Collins, too. Collins isn't even that experienced of a player either, So you also have to worry about his development to an extent and then the rotation with Hassan Whiteside. Yeah, I mean, I thought if the regular season was going to play out normally, then I would have felt better about Portland. But just now, it's just, 8 games is a lot to ask, and they have to be within a certain range of the Grizzlies. Then you have to hope the Grizzlies mess up a little bit. it's just going to take Damian Lillard to be his usual self around playoff time.
Yeah, I want to give you the plug there for breaking some news on the podcast here. Yeah, you did break some news. There was also some news broke that between my interview with Alex Schiffer and our recording on Monday night on the 29th that Spencer Dinwiddie has tested positive for coronavirus. He said he's experiencing symptoms, so his status for the reboot is in question. He might not go. We already talked about Trevor Ariza not going. Avery Bradley's not going. Davis Bertans not going either, which I understand that because the Wizards are not getting to the playoffs and he's making a ton of money in free agency. So what do you think about the impact some of these sit-outs are going to have on this thing?
Yeah, I think is a massive shift with that Dinwiddie stuff. If Dinwiddie does not play, the coveted 2 spot, which the Raptors do have right now, I do think they will get it, but they have one of the toughest schedules with a 6-game stretch. Like, if they were to somehow lose that 2 seed, it would be borderline devastating for them because if you potentially match up against Philly instead of Brooklyn without Spencer Dinwiddie, without Kevin Durant, without Kyrie Irving, I mean, that's a massive blow, and that just makes your road to the playoffs and to the finals that much harder. So, I mean, that's the real impact I see in terms of path and seeding.
I'll say this. I think Martino's almost given the Nets a little too much credit here. Forget the 7 seed. That team's on the ropes when it comes to making the playoffs if Spencer Dinwiddie is not there. That's the go-to man, of course, with this absence of both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. I like Karis LeVert. I think Jared Allen could be something. Forget Wilson Chandler just said he's going to be sitting out. The Nets open up the restart with the Orlando Magic. If they lose that game, and they actually opened as betting favorites for that game, and they've already been bet 2 dogs pre-Dinwiddie announcement. Before that, people are fading this Nets team. If they lose that game and the Wizards win their opener against the poor Phoenix Suns, they're then 1 game away, the Wizards, from triggering that plan. I think Brooklyn missing the playoffs as a whole is very much so on the table. There's also an interim head coach there. I don't know what to make of Josh Gavon. Like, don't forget that they got rid of Kenny Atkinson. I think the idea that the Nets are out of the postseason is more plausible than ever before.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that. And then you mentioned the schedule. It did drop last week. Like, you guys got to take a deep peek at it. Like, what intrigues you the most about this schedule they've released?
I'll tell you this. When it comes to the Pelicans, I know a lot of people joke about, the NBA, they're doing all this just to get Zion in. First of all, they are businessmen. Let's not be silly here. Of course you want Zion in, especially when the first matchup would be against the Lakers, when it's Zion, LeBron, it's AD versus the Pelicans, it's all of the guys that they say LeBron traded going, now up against their former team. Are you kidding me? It's as if they were booking a wrestling story. Of course they'd want that. But also, when the season came to a close, the Pelicans had the easiest remaining schedule in the NBA. There was a pretty good chance they were going to come for that 8th seed. I looked through that schedule, Mike. I think they're favored now in 7 of their first 8 games. They opened up as a small dog to the Utah Jazz in Game 1. They've already been bet to favorites. I think they're now going to be favored in 7 of those 8 games. And I'll push it a step further. It's not just about them triggering a play-in and maybe being able to beat Memphis twice. They might be the 8th seed going into the play-in, only needing to win once. That schedule is still so favorable for them.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to roll with the Sixers in this. They have one of the easier schedules coming into this. Right now, they're dead on tied with the Indiana Pacers. I do think as of right now, you could argue that the Sixers matching up against Boston with that big man discrepancy, and they moved Al Horford off the bench then, so they were figuring things out there. But I think that's just a better matchup for them. But if they move up to play against Kevin's Heat, I'm not entirely convinced they can get past that. I think that might be a better matchup for them against Boston, but I do think they're obviously capable of beating the Heat. I think they also benefit from not playing on the road per se, right? Everyone's a neutral court. Mm-hmm. And I do think that matters. But you could also spin it the other way, saying they're not playing behind their home crowd. We don't know what's going to happen, right? And I'm a little skeptical, obviously, of Ben Simmons. If you read some of the reports of that game when he was playing in Milwaukee, he was throwing up because he was in so much pain with his face. And you're just like, how the hell, what is that? I've never heard of anything like that before. But they're still trotted him out there. And then there was issues with Joel Embiid's conditioning. And again, the condensed schedule, is he going to be able to handle that? But they're lucky that they're getting this type of schedule. They're lucky that I don't think Oladipo is going to be there for the Pacers, that it's viable for them to get the 5th seed. So for me, I think the Sixers are definitely the most intriguing one in the East with all this.
Let me piggyback off that quickly, though, if you don't mind, Mike, because he's making a great point there. This is a difficult spot for Philly because not only could you argue Boston is a better matchup for them than Miami, but now if you're on the 4-5 line, you see Milwaukee sooner than later. And the problem is, with this now all being neutral sites, like Philly has a schedule where they could get up to the 4 seed, but that's meaningless. The 4 is the exact same thing as the 5. And their first game is against the Pacers. They're favored in that matchup. So the odds are, and they're going to be favored comfortably in their first 6 games, the Sixers. The odds are they're going to move up to the 5th or the 4th seed, unless Miami, who based on some strength of schedule metrics, do have the toughest 8-game stretch here, unless Miami bounces back to 6 and the Sixers get themselves drawn with the Pacers in round 1, I think Martino's making a great point that this is a weird thing where winning games might not be in their favor because of matchups.
Yeah, I wanted to expand more on the Sixers because of the home court thing that Martino mentioned. Their splits are ridiculous.
Totally.
I mean, 29-2 at home, 10-24 on the road. It's just absurd. And also throw in there Miami, 27-5 at home, 14-19 on the road. Those two teams now, they are not playing in front of their fans. They're going to be in truly neutral site things. Does this help them? Does this hurt them? I think that's one of the more fascinating aspects of the Orlando angle here, because those two teams have shown a complete inability to win outside their buildings against anybody of note.
And I don't know how this lands for you, Martino, but to me, it's almost impossible to tell. Yes, they now have lost their home court advantage, but they're now also not traveling anywhere. And sometimes with those teams like Miami and Philly, it's a focus thing. When you're traveling, you're not as locked in. I would argue to you that this bubble type of situation should eliminate some of that. If you're not focused in that bubble, then I don't know what to say for you. So if I had to choose between this being better or worse for those home court needy teams, I might lean toward better.
I agree with that as well, only because some are just so bad on the book. Like, Kenan is absolute garbage. And I'm sorry, that is something that matters when you want to win a championship. But you know what? You got lucky. And if Philly doesn't actually turn it around when this kind of goes in their favor, then I'm not sure this core will ever win together. And I mean, it could be over as soon as this fall.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really at that point, for me, in my opinion. Unless they make real strides, or unless they just simply get rid of Brett Brown, or they do get rid of Brett Brown and they trade an Embiid. Yeah, like, it's really potentially down to that, especially if there's a first-round exit.
Yeah, it will be fascinating because, like, Alex Schiffer said earlier in the podcast, it's basically the equivalent of, like, the NBA players being in-house arrest at Disney resorts for 3 months. So this is something none of them have ever experienced before. So whoever adapts to this, maybe it does play the benefit of Philly or Miami, who absolutely stinks on the road, or maybe it hurts them because they're like, we can't be in front of our home fans. Like, this is all things we don't know. I think that's what makes all the fun, the betting fun, all the angles fun. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys are more in on the lines than I am. Like, how much have you seen some of these lines shifting as a result of the neutral site, knowing there's no real home court advantage for anybody?
Yeah, I mean, they pulled, they now, those 2.5 to 3 points that you get, they've completely taken out. I've been following the lines that the FanDuel Sportsbook has posted pretty much since they got up there. And I think what we're seeing is, look, they gave you an initial number, but they're not scared to get off of it. Case in point, the Spurs opened up as a 1.5 favorite to Sacramento. Before I put my head to rest, they were 2-point dogs, the Spurs, and they're now 3-point dogs. Kings money came in, and the books were like, okay, fine. I think this is a situation, at least in the early going, they're kind of at the mercy of the better. That's when you have an opportunity to win.
Yeah, so how would you be playing this? Like, what would your strategy be to try and take advantage of some of these lines?
I mean, I'll start here, Martino. I think for me right now, I still want to wait till we can cross that July 1 threshold because that's really supposed to be the hard date for players saying in or out. I will say, though, the plus money number that the Pelicans are offering to be the 8th seed, I think right now it's plus 380 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. I would certainly take a look at. Just because it's a nice plus money bet, I don't think you want to get too far ahead of yourself in the futures market. If you wanted to look for a game-by-game bet, I'll offer you a dog. I mentioned the Wizards beating the Suns. Last I saw, they were 3-point dogs to the Phoenix Suns. To me, they just have so much to play for than Phoenix does that Washington team. As long as Bradley Beal's there, I think that the Wizards should win that basketball game. That's one game that I might be willing to bet now, even though we're about a month away.
I do think Toronto to win the East at plus 800 on FanDuel definitely represents the best value. And if you feel confident enough about the Sixers and for them to overcome all that stuff, and you like the matchup against Boston, and if you think they'll stay at the 60, then plus 900, I could see where you're coming from there. I don't think it's the Celtics year. I think next year is like kind of where you would shift to think maybe they have a shot at the Eastern title, depending on how Milwaukee goes down. Toronto again for just the NBA title at plus 2,400. I do love both LA teams to win the finals. I think one of those two teams will win it. I'm not fully convinced of Milwaukee. I'm not convinced of that supporting cast that Giannis has will step up. I'm not really sure if Chris Middleton really is a number 2 on a title-winning team yet, even though I think he's a really good player. So for some of the single-game stuff that I've seen, I see Orlando minus 1.5 for the first game against the Nets. Now, if I'm under the assumption that Spencer Dinwiddie isn't going there, then I'm taking him. And then even if Dinwiddie is there, I'm not even that convinced that like he'll be 100% too, because he has been showing symptoms. God forbid, like we don't know what symptoms he does have. But if it has to do with some of the breathing, then I'm not sure how his conditioning will get up. So like that would scare me off, right? And then even if he doesn't play, like Jonathan Isaac on Karis LeVert, when Karis LeVert is the one carrying the load, like I'm taking Isaac as much as I like LeVert. And then even the Celtics, whatever, call me biased. I think 5's kind of a big number, one game back. Plus 5 against Milwaukee, I think they can cover in that one. So those are kind of early things that I see there. And then I do like New Orleans minus 130 as well on the money line against Utah. Because I still don't think Utah, they're not going to have Bogdanovich. I certainly don't think they'll have Joe Ingles. Mike Conley might as well go back to Ohio State as an assistant coach at this point. I really just don't like the Jazz. I think the Jazz would also be the upset to get bounced in the first round out of all the favored teams.
Yeah, one thing I'm intrigued at, I want to get your guys both take on this. Obviously, you talk about the Nets with the whole Dinwiddie situation, and there's a good chance he doesn't go down to Orlando. And that team has a lot of issues. They have a bunch of guys not there. There's no Kyrie's walking through the door. Durant's not walking through the door. Dinwiddie's not there. Like, what would you think about doing a speculative bet on the Wizards to beat them out and get into the playoffs as the 8th seed?
Do it. I say do it. It's 17-1 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. We've actually been fading this Nets team as soon as these lines got posted because to me, I thought there was just opportunity based on numbers alone. 17-1. Again, I know how far back they are, and I get it. Even in a play-in game, they got to win 2 in a row before the Nets win 1. But that team, without Dinwiddie, you have to know, right? Based on like the salary cap, they'd be missing their 3 best players in Durant, Kyrie, and Spencer Dinwiddie. That's going to lead to them having a weakened roster. Bradley Beal will be the best player on the court for the Wizards in those, or not just for the Wizards, for all of those teams. 17-1, Mike. 17-1.
That's incredible value.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just a little weary of, these two teams, like, what do the Wizards really have to play for here? And I've said this, like, in their best interest, is it worth it to bring all these guys? Is it worth it to tell Bradley Beal, hey, we want you to go to Orlando? And there hasn't been any reports otherwise. This is just kind of me just thinking in terms of the Wizards, because say John Wall isn't healthy and he comes back, and then Bradley Beal somehow gets injured in this 8-game stretch, and then Bradley Beal has 1 year left on his deal, and God forbid he's not playing in this last year of his deal, and you can't trade him. And if you do trade him, you're really not going to get a lot for him. So I think there's a lot on the line there. And also, again, play devil's advocate with the Nets, too. Does DeAndre Jordan go for this? Like, well, what's the point in bringing him there? Do they want to keep Jared Allen? Because Jared Allen, there was rumors that he might get traded, too. I think there's just a lot that's up in the air. But, like Kevin was saying, if you're going to get him at 17-1 now, I don't think it's going to get any lower than that because this is before Dinwiddie's final decision. So if he doesn't go, then that's going to move up again. So you might as well do it now.
Yeah, I think that's is the case. We're kind of looking for opportunity here, and this is one where you can take a gamble here and like at 17-1, if you really believe in it and you happen to like have a strong feeling on Dinwiddie, like you could get a big return if you happen to like play that correctly.
And look, the thing is, right? You play it for $10, right? And you would win $170. And if Bradley Beal, for honestly very valid reasons that Martino listed, didn't go, then you lost a 17-1 bet because the odds would go down so far. But obviously, I don't think you'd start to double up then. Like, it's not even about beating the number if it goes backwards. That's the best number you're going to get on something that you would actually want to go out there and play. I don't see why not. This, again, you're bringing an interim head coach in that. Like, this whole season for the Nets was never about this year. And just all year long, they're just pile on the evidence. Oh, Kyrie played 10 games. No Durant. Kenny Atkinson fired. This is not their year. And for Bradley Beal, just to answer Martino's questions about, like, oh, what's the point? And I'm not saying, look, this is maybe too prideful, but the idea of Bradley Beal missing out on the All-Star team because his team was not good enough and then making the playoffs is something that I think he would take pride in.
Asterisk.
Yeah, well, listen, he's gonna talk about it. And, I mean, look, there's an asterisk to the fact that they left him probably out of the All-Star game, so...
Oh yeah, I mean Damian Lillard can tell that too. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not going to disagree.
He might sneak on an All NBA team if they maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's a bridge too far, but he might sneak on All NBA 3.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting to see. Also, one thing I'm curious about is obviously like with the numbers on here. Obviously, we know there's going to be like a big like intake of testing once these teams get to camps and all that. Would you be looking to try and lock in some numbers now before you get results for these things and see if more people test positive, or you try and wait it out a little bit and see if any of the numbers fluctuate a little bit?
Yeah, so like what Kevin was saying, and what we usually say is that if you feel strongly about something, right, and you see the number that you think isn't going to get much better than that, like the Wizards 17-1, then you do. You put it in. Again, at the end of the day, if you're just putting down $10, right, you're not much of a high roller. $10 is fine. It's respectable. I do it often, whatever. You're losing $10 at most. Like, you're staying inside. You're not spending money on gas. You're not spending as much money on food and other necessities that you would be because we're in a pandemic right now. So if you think about that, okay, $10 instead of going to Chipotle or Jack and Coke in Midtown Manhattan, I'm going to put it towards the Wizards making the 8th seed. And you know what? I got $170. So when the bars do open back up, I can go get myself some bottle service. And that's probably... And really, in the end, it's all about what you're risking. If you're really not risking that much at the end of the day, then you might as well go for it, because we've seen crazier things, right?
And also, if you're out there and you go, I'm going to bet Team Y because they're going to stay COVID-free, go play lottery, dude. What? How do you have that idea? Like, that's a crazy thing for you to be able to try and predict. I think it is, though, a good reason, Mike, why people might be safest playing the NBA restart game by game. Futures are always attractive, but you got to try and be somewhat realistic. If you 100% believe that this benefits the Rockets like no other team, then yeah, go for it. If you believe that the Sixers are going to get out hot and they're going to live up to their potential, go for it. But right now, because of the times we are living in, playing this game by game is your safest bet.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because obviously, like, if you know they're going to play tomorrow, that's a safer bet to at least get some action than to hope that you get all the way to October with no setbacks, no big outbreaks. Like, that's a big gamble, because if you're hoping to make cash, the sooner you get a return, the better it would be.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I've seen, some odds makers talk kind of how they're going to handle if teams are impacted by COVID. And I think they said that they're probably just going to have to treat it like an injury. So if you go out there again, I'm not going to name it, you play a future on Team Z and their best player all of a sudden goes down, they're not going to refund your bet. So that's why, to me, like the Pelicans number at plus 380, I don't mind going right now, because that's going to happen in an 8-game window. Zion's going. We're hearing great things about Zion. I'm good, right? Like, I'm willing to play that future. It's in a smaller window. But I'm not rushing over to the book to put in an NBA championship future right now.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. And speaking of NBA championships, like, let's put it out there. Like, if you were going to pick right now, and let's knock on wood wherever we are, and assume that, we get lucky with the virus and the bubble works and people stay healthy and enough people are there to play this out, who is going to the finals?
So, look, to me, I've been consistent all year. I think it's going to be the Lakers to win this whole thing. I can only gain confidence from how they closed out the season before things closed up, even though they managed to lose to the Nets right after beating the Bucks and the Clippers, because, of course, the East is it's a little bit more difficult. Milwaukee is rightfully a favorite, but they were also rightfully a favorite last year. I think the matchup that is Miami is a scary one. I think Brad Stevens and Nick Nurse are incredible coaches. I think the Sixers have this ceiling that is one of the best in all of basketball. I don't know if they reach it. I think right now, though, it's a lot of question marks for me when it comes to these teams in the East. So just because I'm not looking to give you a hot take, Mike. Right now, my expectation is a Lakers-Bucks final.
Yeah, so look, I've been back and forth on who will be winning this title, but I did predict preseason. I said Lakers versus Sixers, and then the Sixers obviously did what they did, so I really have no confidence in them for the most part in making it, although, you never know. Sometimes things can just click. But for me, I think I'm leaning to Toronto to make it out of the Look, I have to see it from Milwaukee. Yeah, I am one of those guys. Like, I literally just have to see it out of Giannis. Because Giannis right now is where LeBron was prior to winning his first NBA title. I do, and obviously it's a little different because they're different players, but I still think a lot of people are questioning if Giannis will leave that mark with that legacy. I think they're very deep. I think Budenholzer has a lot to prove. But as of right now, I lean to Toronto because they're so battle-tested and I think they're so disrespected. And I think they know that, and they're going to be there longer in Orlando than anyone else will be. So I think they're going to be better prepared for it. Look, as much as I want to see the Clippers, I think the Clippers have a few more question marks than most teams. And I really do. And you know what? Like, if the Clippers are healthy, they can certainly win this whole thing. It's not out of the realm of. But for me, I feel like this is the last hoorah for LeBron. I think like this is the last time we see him as one of the favorites and like clear top two teams. And I'm having a hard time betting against him. I don't know what it is. I think I'm going to go just Lakers over Raptors in 6 games.
I'm telling you right now, Mike, Martino has been doing this to me now for years. In the same breath, tells me that LeBron is done, but he's got him winning the title. And I don't know whether to be happy with him or angry with him. I don't know. He's killing me, dude. He's killing me.
When did I say LeBron was done?
Just right there, though. You don't know if he's going to be able to get back to the promised land. Now, I'm obviously being a bit dramatic. I know I'm being a bit dramatic.
Favorite as the main favorite. That's different. As the main.
I hear you.
Look, because there's a possibility that it's just Giannis's league soon. I think it's kind of like that where LeBron and Kobe were, where Kobe was in 2010, where he's still the main guy, quote unquote, because he won the title. And LeBron is still like technically the best player. I mean, he's still the best player now, in my opinion. But like, I don't know. I have question marks about it. Eventually, the guy is going to have to fall off. I'm just saying there's a possibility that this might be the last time we see LeBron as we've known him his whole career as the favorite. But he could easily do it next year. I'm just saying it's possible.
I got you.
Yeah, next year's a whole other interesting debate because we don't know what the schedule's going to look like yet, and we don't know how compressed it's going to be. If they're going to be a lot more back-to-backs and load management to an extreme. So
December is a disaster. I'm sorry. I'm just saying that right now. I think that would be a terrible thing, and I don't think they've really backed off on it. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think it's stupid.
No,
What is that? What are you saying is stupid?
The December 1st start date for the next season. I think.
Oh, yeah, that's going to get pushed back. There's no way. I think we're going to get a shortened season, though. I don't think we're playing 82 next year either.
I think if you want to play the regular calendar as soon as possible, you're not playing 82 next year. I think you're playing probably like 66 like you did during the last lockout.
Which is fine.
It's just fine. They don't need that many games. The only reason the games are going on that high is because the owners want the gate revenue, which is what we've seen in baseball them fighting over for the past like 3 months.
Wait, it's a money issue? Wow, I'm stunned.
I've never seen those before. It's also, too, is they want to get these guys to not only get back on schedule, but there is this desire to be able to send people to the Olympics. And I said it was going to be this summer, and things kind of washed away. But if they can get everybody healthy, the next Olympic team, I think has a chance to be the best Olympic team ever. But I don't know who's going to go, so it might not even matter.
You said 2012 was the best, and then 2016 came out, and then you're like, it's dumb.
Oh, no, yeah, because all these teams would still beat the Dream Team because the Dream Team, listen, it wasn't Larry in his prime. It wasn't Magic in his prime. And we know that. And that's why it's not an insult.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just keep moving. Each next Olympic team is the best team.
That's why, because things keep progressing forward and players keep getting better.
Right?
Look, all I'm saying is, if that starting lineup is Steph, Harden, LeBron, Durant, and AD, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
That would be something.
Whew. Whew. Whew.
Yeah, well, it's just a lot of fun talking to basketball bets. Before I let you guys go, though, I do want to get your take on a couple of baseball throws real quick, because I'm going to be doing over-unders on this podcast in a few weeks about the baseball season. Again, knocking on wood that we get it. That I'm looking at the numbers in here, and the over-unders for the 60-game season are very fascinating. And one I think it's always funny is I was going to the Orioles because they're such a disaster. 20.5 wins projected for the Orioles in a 60-game season. I still might take the under.
That's horrible. Yeah, I get it. I think last year they had won 19 games through the first 60. The thing is, you are right there. Like, if you wanted to play the over for them or, say, the Tigers, you're going to end up right there in a 60-game sample size.
Yeah. Like, I found a couple I already am intrigued by. Like, their one, like, the Red Sox under I'm very intrigued by. I never liked that team to begin with. I think it's too high. Like, I think the Reds over is intriguing. There's a lot of interesting numbers on the board.
Yeah, I like the Reds actually, Mike. I was thinking about that too. Like 31.5, I think, with that pitching staff. Yeah, I think it's the most underrated staff in the game in terms of casual fans' opinions go. Look, I'm telling you right now, if there is a year for the freaking Mets to do this thing.
It's not this one. This one.
It would,
yeah, well,
it would be this one. The year they can't have any fans there, the year they can't have a parade, the year they're desperately trying to sell the franchise. That'd be the year the Mets win.
No, I'm going the other way with it. I think that because I think there's good news on the horizon. The Wilpons are going to sell again. Yes, again. And I think because of that, it might bottom out. I think it might bottom out just for one last hurrah.
I just don't get the Dodgers being heavy favorites. I get it.
You don't?
I just don't get heavy favorites in this type of season. That's all.
That's fair. No, I see. That I agree with. See, I think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. I think I might even bet the Dodgers over, but they're like minus 700 to win their division. In a 60-game sample size, that's outrageous. Like, in the same breath that I tell you I like the Dodgers over, I think I would play the Padres or the Diamondbacks to win the NL West, because you can't be a minus 700 favorite. I'll say the same thing to eliminate all bias. The same thing is true in the AL East. If you want to play the Rays, if you want to play the Blue Jays, even, I won't say Baltimore's a joke, right? But like the Yankees being a minus 350 favorite in a 60-game sample size, I don't think you can make that bet.
Yeah.
Oh, they went to 290 now, I see. So
Okay.
Yeah, I think the baseball is fascinating just because they have such a short sample size that like all it takes is for one really good team to get out of the gate slow and they're done. Like I think this is why I think this is a year to go. If you like the Reds, bet the Reds. If you like the Padres, bet the Padres because the number is still high and you're getting massive returns.
I really do pitcher for MVP, man. I really do. I think it's like DeGrom just has that stretch, or Mad Max has that stretch. Plus 4,000. Like the weight of those like 12 to 13 starts or whatever it might be, like that right there is just like it could be enough, because if you win your division by a game or two, you're like that's simply because DeGrom and Scherzer were just shutting out guys. But again, you never know what can happen in 60 games.
Yep.
I was saying, I'll just say, I think too, you could see a world, I think, where someone like Chapman wins the Cy Young for, like, I think relief pitchers now have a better chance because they're going to make way more appearances. Last year, Garrett Cole pitched in Game 60 for the Astros, and it was start number 13. I think you're looking at relief pitchers there. There's going to be relief pitchers that triple the amount of appearances to these starters. And in this condensed schedule, it might matter more than it usually does.
Yeah, and that might not be good for the Met fans who got one of the worst bullpens in baseball last year. You see the bullpen get that much more work.
No pressure, Edwin Diaz. There's no pressure, baby. We're just going to yell at you from our home. There's a difference.
Yeah, they actually do something like they put like fans like on Zoom calls on the scoreboard what they were doing for the NFL draft. Then Diaz might have trouble. But they just keep it quiet. I think they have a chance.
Just a bunch of Mets fans boozing and crying. That's all it's going to be.
Well, that was definitely a fun little sidetrack into baseball, but we'll wrap it up here. I do want to thank you guys for coming on. Martino, you want to go first with your social media? Kevin, then you can go after. You guys can tell me about how we can keep up with you on the Sports Grid.
Yeah. So at Martino Puccio on Twitter, it's obviously a bunch of the sports, baseball, basketball. Obviously, it's mainly soccer right now, so just give me a few weeks, and then there'll be more of the other sports stuff. But yeah, and you can find us there, and then I guess I'll just wait for Kev to plug the show.
Yeah, I'm over at the Kevin Walsh on Twitter, but check us out for Betting Around the Rim. Me and Martin, 2-hour show on the weekends talking all things NBA. Martino and I do an hour, do the other hour with our guy Jared Smith from the Sports Grid, and we hit everything over there. And we're doing a lot of good stuff with the Sports Grid. Right now, I'm featured over on the early line, which is the morning show from 7 to 9, Monday to Friday. And I know Martino is over at the Free Kick. There's nobody I trust more for the soccer info. So check us out with everything we got going on at the Sports Grid.
Yeah, indeed. I also give Martino a shout out too for the State of Play podcast he's part of, getting picked up by the Athletics Podcast Network. So he, in a way, is a indirect coworker with Alex Schiffer, I guess, from earlier.
Woo!
Yeah, thank you. But more congratulations on Amani Bates. Who knows if he plays MSU, but man, that's like it's freaking God in a sophomore in high school right there. So congrats on that.
Yeah, there's talk he's going to reclassify into 2021, which means he'd play a year there guaranteed, and then that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, okay. Yes, that's guys, who's listening, like this kid is definitely the best high school basketball player since LeBron James. And like I know we saw Zion and do what he did, but I don't think there's anyone as polished overall as Amani is.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, man. Like it's no wonder that we had the year off when it comes to prospects, because we got Zion, year off, Cade Cunningham, and then it could be Amani Bates right after. It would have been almost selfish for us to expect like an all-world player, although I'm excited about what LaMelo can do. But I guess maybe that's why this draft class upcoming is so unexciting.
Yeah, well, I will say this. If Amani does come and it does reclassify for 21 and plays the year in Michigan State, that Zion Mania, this will be that on steroids, watching this kid play every night.
Ooh, I don't know. See, I love Amani, but Zion was at Duke, and Zion is a bigger highlight because of the athleticism. I'm excited about Amani. He might, better player. Like we'll see. The kid's, he's a junior. I guess he could be, a senior. But I think I don't know that Zion thing, man. That was, dude, at Duke with the second and third best players in the class and the top point guard. They went out there game one. I'll admit it. they made Kentucky look like they were a high school basketball team. I don't know. I like Amani. He's going to need a bunch of other dudes to show up with him, though.
Yeah, well, Izzo, like that, he might be able to bring some with him because Izzo has scholarships coming up after next year, so there will be opportunities to add guys.
Yeah, is Amani a Michigan kid? Is that what
Yeah,
where this comes from?
Yeah, Michigan State's been scouting him since the 7th grade, and they even built a relationship with him, which I think he said played a lot into the decision because the bigger coaches didn't bother with him because you know what, he's going to go to the NBA, which I think shame on them because you never rule out anybody.
It's a win for Izzo.
Props to them. That's how the recruiting works these days. Honestly, it's honestly such a great get for Michigan State if he does end up going there because I mean, again, just it's absurd. It's absurd to watch him, but again, yeah, it'll be tough with the hype stuff because Zion was the most hyped athlete I remember coming out making a debut probably since Strasburg.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Before I let you go, have either of you guys seen the Netflix movie about High Flying Bird, about the world of basketball in a quarantine, and there's a lockout situation? Either of you seen that?
No.
Okay, well, I am going to be talking about that next. I have the great Alan Austin joining the podcast. If you want to check that out, just stay tuned right after this.